Hi guys, do you want to take it in turns and introduce yourselves? Who's going to go first?
Nice to be here. My name's Stu Brooks. I'm the EHS director for a company called Geoquest USA. Clearly not American, British. Been in the US for 2 years now, but been in the wider group for the last 15 years. I'm working with the gentleman on my right extensively over those years as well. So.
Good day. My name is Antoine. I work as a group health and safety director for Geoquest. I'm based in Paris, France, where is the head office of the group. The company operates in about 30 different countries, and North America and especially US is our biggest business unit in terms of operation. So yeah, very happy to be here. Good opportunity to be in the conference and going tomorrow to Texas to see the field and the plants and meet the guys.
So you said that you knew each other before.
I joined the company when I was based in the Middle East. I'd managed the company I joined on 3 projects across different Middle Eastern countries, and then joined the dark side, you could say, and. So I went over. We started a project in Jordan, which went south. We actually got removed from there, and then I ended up getting sort of reintegrated back into the core business of our major projects division. But I still lived internationally, so I was traveling extensively around the world supporting our projects. And then we've been working together ever since you joined the company.
I joined the group in 2017. Before that, I used to work in the oil and gas industry, so working offshore in the oil and gas rig, bit everywhere, living in Mexico. So lots of travel as well. In 2017, I came back to Paris. I was looking for an international company. With my engineering degree, I thought that would be an interesting field to discover. And I was working in the corporate for a few years, and that's where we start having interaction. So Stu was working in the international divisions, major project, and I was working at the corporate department supporting the business units. In that company named Soletange Bashi, that is a sister company of Geoquest, specialized in foundation works.
So what is Geoquest? What's the product?
The US, we are we design, we engineer, we manufacture, and we supply retaining walls to our customer base. So we tend to work with main contractors, tier 1 contractors here in the US, who are installing our walls. Our solutions into Department of Transportation projects, so major mainly roads and rail, and we've got manufacturing facilities in Texas and Florida, and then we're separated into 4 regions: northeast, southeast, central, and west, and that sort of covers the whole of the US. We've got we're sort of siloed. Into the project, the operations, the project management side, and then the manufacturing. Our largest facilities in Texas, they produce 50% of our concrete. And then my role is really primarily to support the wider group, but initially it was a major focus on the manufacturing. Why? Because that's where our major risk was. We had this belief that we were an engineering company. Which, on this sort of schematic that we'd drawn, it's only equated to about 5% of the whole company business. So 60% was manufacturing. So it's important that we hit that. Manufacturing had been grossly underinvested for a long period of time. So now we're trying to change that a little bit and get into it. So I've joined a relatively new team to try and alter the path of our manufacturing. And 2 years in, we've made big steps. Still a huge way to go, but it's visible to see that we are making a difference, and that's always pleased to see it.
Yeah, I had a little look at the website and saw that you do like big retaining walls with seawall.
And we are doing so. Yeah, we've got a company here based in Colorado and Texas, and they are expanding to other states to do the installation side of things as well. So more construction as well as manufacturing, general industry. So yeah, we're trying to. As we diversify, the group is constantly looking to offer turnkey, the full package.
Yeah.
As through that diversification, so that we can just be more profitable, make more, do more as a company.
So how do your two roles differ then?
I work from the corporate, so my boss is the CEO of the company, and I work with a bunch of HSE managers representing their countries, supporting their countries. Stu is covering the biggest business area with lots of experience and dedicated to the role. We have smaller business units where our health and safety representative could be the operation manager, could be the logistic manager, because of the size and because of the scope of the business unit. So the main operation area is, after the US, India and Australia, and Southeast Asia is getting more and more projects at the moment. And Geoquest is a new name for the company. I think we changed the name a couple of months ago. Before that, the company named Terra Armée, which was very French, Reinforced Earth in the US, Tierra Armada in some of the Latin Spanish countries. And we changed the name to reflect a bit more the diversification of our activities. So the core business is exactly what the US has been doing for years, and that will continue to do as per the market on reinforcers structures. And Geoquest is a bit more going into diversification areas such as erosion control. So we do provide some mattresses in the seabed, for example, to avoid erosion. That will be filled with concrete. We do work on stabilization of slopes because of landslides, because of rock falls, where we're going to install nets and barriers. So those are new activities that emerge in our business units, mainly because of climate change. So the business is getting higher and higher in many of the countries where we operate. And that means that a huge challenge is coming up, because new techniques where we don't have much experience will bring new risk, and we're going to need to train our people on those risks and on those operations.
I think every business has kind of its unique risks, its unique kind of safety concerns. I think everyone has similar ones. There's kind of in your business, where do you see the kind of the main things that you're looking at focusing on, sort of in the short term, medium term of kind of making changes?
Having worked extensively in the US, but sort of in and out for years, and then actually moving to the US and living here, you realise how culturally different the US is. So for us, it's about really trying to build a team, retaining a team, and having that standardised consistency and approach to management of risk. Say a safety direction, working towards sort of common goals. It's really hard when you're constantly having to keep going out and trying to find new staff to come in and support your team. So that puts a lot of pressure on us. I think the other risk is as well managing out all the old sort of ways of doing things. As I said, that engineering was grossly under invested in. Having to make the business more compliant first before we get on and try and deal with the bigger stuff, or with the stuff that we want to do, innovation and improvement. So that's been my first couple of years, really. I think that's been the biggest challenge. It's stabilisation of the team, and I have got good people in my team now, and we are definitely improving that consistency, that there's a bit more trust, a bit more integrity and honesty and transparency from that aspect. But it's a constant challenge that we're trying to get over.
We're content side in health and safety, that tends to be. So we work in internal comms. I don't know if you know anything about us as a business and what we do. So we've partnered with the event to do some interviews, podcasts, bit of B-roll, bit of, just be really in that, because we really kind of fell in love with the HSE Global Series when we came back in 2019, and I've sort of been coming back as an exhibitor. But we work in supporting with those training materials, the content side of things. So we're Netflix is on set safety, so there's a series of 11 videos in total that we've created, and we've done them in 18 languages, and they've gone across all of their sets. It's very broad for us in terms of it could be VR, it could be video, it could be a PowerPoint. You know, as much as we try and say PowerPoint's not the best solution, sometimes so what we do is look at that interactivity. How can we gamify the PowerPoint session? If you've got all of these remote teams and you're bringing teams in for the construction, how are you training those? How does that? Do you have an induction process or
If we go back 3 years, Geoquest didn't have a safety leadership at all. There was no.
Wow.
So your role, you created your role.
When I joined the company in 2022, the role was split between different business lines. So yeah, we really started from scratch. So that's why the first years was really to make sure that we have robust people in the organization in order to be able to make the change. We're in a way that I think now the organization is quite well established. And as you point out, one of the main challenges that we have in a group like ours is we operate in different countries with different cultures. So we need to, how do we align our standards, which are quite high, to the same level, considering the maturity and the culture from one country to another that is different. And the size of our companies, the different leaderships from our business unit managers. So it's a challenge, and we are working in different countries, so we are visiting, passing messages. The leadership team is visiting also the different business units, but we do gather often. So virtually, I think we try to gather the whole HSE network every 2 months in order to share our successes, to share our challenges. Most of the time, the issue that we have in one country is the same in another country because the operations are the same. So we really try to capitalize a lot on sharing from our experiences. And we do that quite well as part of this community. So I do think that now our community is quite strong.
We've piggybacked off the back of Solitude's Batchy. So
exactly,
SB, the company we worked for previously, they are sort of years ahead in that aspect because they're a larger entity. And that has sort of cascaded down through the companies. And then it's got to Geoquest as we are. And then the first piece of the jigsaw was placed in Antoine. And then he's cascaded his vision down through the businesses, and hence myself arriving as a senior figure in the US, and we've now got again quite a stable team that meets up regularly, shares ideas, concerns, talks about failure. I mean, that was all this behavioural stuff that just wasn't even a consideration in this company 3 years ago. So our trajectory is very fast. And so trying to keep that balanced and trying to keep things sort of relative in a business where the management are probably not really ready for it either at times. You know, it's
permanent coaching. But the good thing that we have in our company is all the HSE functions reports to the CEO or to the president or the business unit manager, which I think is, when we share also with other peers, is really a strength because any decision could be quickly acted, and we don't need to. We are also present in management meetings. So if we need to implement something, it should be quite fast. Then it's a permanent coaching because they're all busy. They have their own priority, which sometimes we struggle with. But I think it's something that is quite strong and that should be should be highlighted.
I think that, and that's why I was so keen to get my team, or colleagues here involved in this. I attended last year. I love sort of Paul's vision and his idea, and just changing the rhetoric around the subject. Looking at things a lot more in depth, less compliance, and all these new buzzwords. So it's great to be around those types of people involved in my team, and also getting a few operational people involved as well. So trying to sort of broaden the discussion. And that will pay dividends, I'm sure, in time. We'll take the learnings away. And
what they say yesterday, and what I noticed also when I started my career in the oil and gas industry, is safety is, we don't talk about safety because safety is part of operations, so it's part of any function. You are a mechanical engineer, you are a navigation engineer, you do your operation with safety. So anything is fully integrated. We are not yet there. People, they still see that safety is something that is a part, and I think our job permanently is trying to make sure that everything is integrated and it's part of everyone's responsibility.
Yeah.
Going back to what we were discussing for the community, so in a group like ours, yes, we do meet regularly virtually, which sometimes is not super easy. This morning, for example, we had a call at 6 a.m. because we have a friend in Australia, which is already quite late. So sometimes it's a challenge, but we do it well, and we try also to meet physically sometimes. And we have this in a bit less than a month now. We all meet in Annecy, which is a nice city in France, in the Alps. And when we are going to gather with about 15 HSE managers from the group for 3 days, with our CEO that's going to be there with us, spreading the message about the strategy of the group, and we are going to network and share experiences much more physically all together. And that's something quite important because the strength also is what we want to avoid is the turnover within our network, and I think it's a good way also to retain people and try to impose the strengths that we have in the group being exposed internationally and working in different regions for the same objectives.
Retention is something that we do kind of workshops with our clients regularly, stuff on VR, stuff on learning, what's the best way we do this. And we always try and get that point across of whether it's in a HR environment or a safety environment, the retention of your staff is better when they feel engaged. If they feel like they're listened to, they feel like they're valued, they feel like when and we talk from a content side, obviously. So it's if you put out a 400-page PowerPoint, stick it in their inbox and say, read this and understand it, you don't feel very valued as an employee that no one took the time to kind of go through that with you. But obviously from other areas, that's the same. And I think I found this really interesting over the last few years is those communities where HSE professionals like yourselves are meeting with other HSE professionals and talking over those challenges. Yeah. And so I know that you'd said that you came last year. Is this your first one of these events?
Yeah, for this one, I've been participating to some of these EHS conference, some of them in France or in Europe, but HSE Global Series the first time. And I do appreciate the fact that the topics are a bit different. No, it's very nice, and we're really pleased to be part of the discussion and interaction. I'll be in touch with them because I know that they organize this in different regions. So if there is a way to bring people from Europe or Middle East to those other sessions, that would be something very interesting for our colleagues as well to attend and to be part of those interesting discussions.
I think we've got one in the UK in July in Chepstow, and then I think we got Budapest at the end of the year.
They were saying yesterday something in Saudi, maybe.
Yeah, there's one in Saudi, and I can't even remember the dates now. Yeah. But yeah, they're the fall this year. I think it was North America, Europe was Budapest, Middle East was.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's great that it's getting that global traction. Yeah. And as I say, the subjects are very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Sort of you look at it on page and you have to sort of read it again and think. It's not. That's what I love about that complete change in direction. The group is our safety director. A group is very much focused on behaviours and sort of trust, building trusting teams. He doesn't like to talk about statistics. He's completely trying to change what the C-suite does on a regular basis, which is looking at just data, numbers, which are completely irrelevant and don't really give true justification of company performance. So I think now, just changing those conversations, it's cascading, and those non-technical skills. the team is growing. Our team is growing as both professionally and personally. You know, able to have sort of much broader discussions in so many different areas. The role keeps growing, right? Everything gets lumped into safety's inbox. So, you know, we've got a safety week coming up. We're sort of like the pioneers of the mental health discussion around mental health. Are we mental health practitioners? No. We just have to try and make it relatable to our audience. And that's where you see the skills in our teams changing. And that's been a real success, I think, from the group. And seeing that cascade through all the entities in the group is really, really good to see.
I think safety gets a bit of I don't want to say a bad rep, but I mean, it did for me. Like, coming into safety when I came in, and it seems like everyone's story didn't start in safety, which I find really interesting, is that I haven't spoken to anyone yet at any of these events who went into safety. They did something, ended up in safety, loved it and stayed, and I think that's kind of something that's weird for me, because it's kind of where I ended up. We've ended up in the internal comms space, but I came to my first one of these events with a very much an opinion of clipboards and compliance and tick box exercises, and was like, I'm not sure we fit in this space. I don't think we can actually help anyone. But we'll see. We might get some work out of it, you know, kind of give anything a go. And fell in love with the community of it being about people, and it being about getting people home safe, and it being about those empathy pieces, and, you know, and mental health coming into it, and that. I think it's fascinating to think about the kind of evolution in just the time that I've been in safety to where we're at the moment.
It used to be safety was really something technical, so we were talking about operational topics like even 10 years ago. And more we talk about. Yesterday we discussed about psychological safety, and you know, how to build trust and how to make people feeling comfortable to speak up. So it's getting more on the psychological side, which is quite interesting. So most of our leadership trainings now targeting leaders in the company are focused on those thematics. How do you build trust with your teams? How do you engage? We used to have from the leaders what we named HSE audits or HSE inspections, and that turned to engagement visits. The idea is not going like a safety cap to the site and tick the box for with the checklist. It's more like discuss with the workers, try to understand what they're facing, their challenges, how we can support. So there is no specific template they need to follow. They just need to engage, because that's how you build trust with your teams. And as soon as you build trust, you make sure that you get to know any concerns and discuss any solution with them. We can clearly see nowadays the difference where we have good leaders and when we have leaders that still need to be coached in terms of safety culture and trust within the teams. So it's very interesting.
Trying to get our operations guys to be a bit more disciplined. So, you know, when you're a leader, you're in charge of everything. So you need to have that breadth of knowledge. There aren't many. I haven't come across many leaders in the sort of early days that genuinely saw safety as their role. You know, yes, they were responsible, but the whole accountability side of things, that's definitely changing now. We saw it. You see it in the UK. It's very by country, by region as well. So you sort of see it coming here. The US is still very compliance based because of the way legislation and standards are written. So trying to change that, it's a real challenge, and get people to be more aware. But so awareness at a lower level, but discipline at a higher level to be visible, engaged. You know, seeking to understand why. If we're hemorrhaging cash, they'll get to the bottom of that and understand why. But if we've got injuries, I don't want your concern, boss. I want your involvement. And that's what we're trying to do through these non-technical skills, and just trying to breed that take the interpersonal risks with the management and seek their their commitment and their discipline.
I think when you look in marketing, you get kind of like so your advertising campaign goes out when you look at how many impressions did your campaign get, right? And that's the statistics. When you sit there with a client and you're looking at your strategy, you're looking at that, how many impressions did I get? And we used to spend a lot of time when I worked more in that side talking to people about, remember that each one of those impressions is a person. Mm-hmm. So you had 2 million impressions, but that is 2 million times someone, a series of people watched that content. So we need to see, was it engaging? Was it right? It's not good enough to tick the box of the target was 2 million people, but if the message was wrong for that 2 million people, then that's where we need to start improving and kind of treat each of those data points. And that's, I think, where you're saying operationally is the difference between a data point and a person.
Yeah.
And that we can tick a box and get 2 million people to see something. That doesn't mean 2 million people understood it. That doesn't mean 2 million people changed it. That's 2 million people tick that box, and that's all we've got.
Many people, they don't know how to. We've been also running through some kind of how to improve communication skills, because we have so many meetings that has to be led by leaders. We talk about pre-shift meetings, some specific meetings before to work, to analyze the situation, the risk with the team, safety orientations, toolbox talks. And most of the times what we got as a feedback is some messages has been sent but not well received, because the one that communicate do not feel really comfortable to animate or to discuss, or it would be like just a top-down discussion and there is no any interaction with the people. So we've been also running some interesting with partners, some interesting communication or how to improve communication training.
Yeah.
And another issue that we face globally is we do operate in countries where people speak different languages. Yeah. So when we talk about communication, we have a upcoming safety week. We can send emails, but the targets that we need to reach are the people on the floor, the workforce, because they are the frontline workers and they are the ones that can be exposed to our major risk. So if the information is not cascaded back to those people, it's a bit useless. Yeah. And that's where also we try to innovate, and thanks to also where we're coming from, that was a bit more advanced with virtual reality, with e-learnings and some other way of communication that would touch most of the people independently of their culture, independently of their language, by different means, in still a very interesting pedagogical way. And I think the good has been the group has been quite supportive in those innovation for safety.
But I think you said that it's the cultural differences, the biases that we've got within the organisation. It's important that we capture everybody. We've got a large Spanish-speaking community within our team. US, so it's having that in my team, that skill. We're able to connect and break down those barriers pretty quickly, certainly with information. But for us, it's about making sure that it's visual, engaging, relatable as well. Stuff that's developed at a corporate level isn't necessarily relatable to in a manufacturing, because he's trying to cover all bases and I'm trying to be more specific. So it's a case of having that balance as well. The discussions this week about how do we get into the heads of how do we make ourselves relatable in the C-suite, without maybe being putting all of our emotions into it, trying to remain impartial, but structured and able to get the message across. It's the same thing at a sort of a shop floor level as well. We've got to try to make it relatable there as well. So you've got these,
it's the up and down, isn't it?
Opposite ends of the spectrum, but in essence, we're trying to do the same thing. And I think the only way to do that is be visual, and relatable.
And visit. So I think within the group, independently of the level, you spend most of your time visiting the plants, discussing with the people, trying to understand the challenges, trying to see how you can support better. At my level, I also try to spend a lot of time visiting the business unit, because that's not with an hour of Teams that you get to know where are the challenges. And it's very important that whatever we produce will really be an added value for our organizations. So in order to do that, you need to discuss with them, you need to get to their challenges, their needs, and try to align something that would be beneficial for everyone.
Some of the stuff that we do with clients is that creative thinking rather than content. Yeah. So we'll do some stuff with people that'll be, right, let's this initiative, let's try this internally, or that. So we've got a few that we're working with at the moment. One being a manufacturing. So we've got people on the shop floor with, how do we engage those people? So we're looking at that. We've also got kind of how do you deliver 5-minute safety training, get everyone engaged, kind of like icebreakers, I suppose they are, but safety focused, kind of a bit of fun, something they can continue to do all day. So we've been developing these. But years ago, back in 2018, I worked with a construction firm, and we looked at more engagement with those teams, because obviously the biggest problem they have in construction is you build a building, you hire all of these people to come in and do this, and then they go because they don't really work for you. They'll have a contract for the end of that building, then they're off with someone else, and so retention is a real issue they have when you're talking large kind of style construction. And we started looking at interviews with the CEO. So that was one of the things that we did, is that we allowed them to apply for any job, right? So there wasn't a job at the end of it, but there were 20 slots there with the CEOs and the heads of those boards, and we got them to apply for, I want to be a CEO, I want to be a site manager, I want to be and they came in and did a half-an-hour interview and then got a bit of coaching for where they needed to go in their career. And that immediate process, got you to get a skills matrix of everyone that you've got on your site. So you now retain their information, understand what they can do, know what their career progression is, and being able to support them to look at, okay, well, whenever we do this, we have a shortage of site managers. Yeah. We've got these 15 people here of all, that's the direction they want to go, which we would never have known if we hadn't run this initiative. Now we can start working with them of, okay, we take 5 of them on and pay them year round, because actually it's cheaper to bring them on and train them than it is to recruit them every time. Yeah. And so it is like applying that kind of logic into safety, I think is a really interesting.
They're seeing what they're actually going to want to go into. So they've got almost like a breadth of knowledge already. Yeah, it's important. The other thing it's interesting, and people I've spoken to in the US, particularly about the compliance training, is that the ability to sit in a training room for 4, 5, 6 hours a day, 2 days, 3 days. The UK we train. Yeah. We train a lot longer. The US now are doing it in much smaller sections because of ability to stay focused. Yeah. So the whole concept of training is changing. Short, sharp bursts, possibly spaced repetition. So repeating the same messages so that it sinks in. I remember we used to have to do that in the Middle East. We had a huge workforce from the Indian subcontinent. So language barriers and all that, cultural differences. The things that we were spending time and training them on seemed so unnecessary and juvenile to sort of Western people, but it was absolutely necessary.
Yeah, it's the base. Yeah,
as a base, and you had to do it consistently and continuously for that message to sink in. Yeah, and be applied. And I think we're starting to see elements of that sort of now as well. There's so many things. The younger people, their ideas as well now. What they want from work is totally different to us dinosaurs. Yeah. That in that 20 year shift. So it's I was talking to it with some of the guys last night around reverse mentoring. Yeah. I've got 2 beautiful kids that I learn from every day. And they're my source of information, because I'm so far detached in such a short time. So being open enough and transparent enough to learn from those people and asking the questions and getting that that reciprocity, almost you could say, reverse mentoring. It's a really powerful tool as well. So there's the whole training space is massive, and just trying to change the way we do things and keep it fresh, engaging, as I said, engaging and relatable. I think that's what we're trying to do.
I know that it'd be good to get a short answer from you of the learnings and things that you've had from the last 2 days at this event. Is there anything that you're going to take home and try and apply? Is there anything that's come up?
But what's very interesting is really to say that we have about 50, 60 peers working in different environments, different industries. but we all share the same challenges. So, and that's what is interesting is we are fully disconnected now from operational challenges, and we are all looking for the same solutions. We discuss how AI could be also our friend, support within safety this morning. Yesterday we discussed about learning from our failures or learning from our successes. We're all looking for the same solutions, facing the same challenges.
I'm a proud, passionate human being that wants the best for the organisation, for my team, for my fellow employees. And I think just the discussions, I think, are going to remove a little bit of the emotion at times. I think, so how I behave in those environments, I probably need to have a bit of a rethink about how I'm going to engage more effectively in that sense. We're never going to see eye to eye on many things, but I've got to. So I know I probably need to change in that aspect. So having that reset a little bit, that's a really important learning for me. The whole subject around AI, it's a minefield. There's pros and cons. There's positive and negative conversations about it. Having the strategy, we're definitely going to jump into it this year. We've got a platform there, and I want to just continuously monitor it and see how it performs without too much pressure on it, and keep it as a restorative tool as opposed to a retributive tool. I want it to see the unseen, and then as a company, how we react as a collective to improving on that. So yeah, little proactive steps in the AI. In the AI piece is going to be really, really important, and the sharings from that. So I think those are the two. So the personal and then a group learning. I think that's what I'll take away from this session.
The good workshop we had yesterday was how to get more buy-in from our leaders as well.
Yeah,
that was interesting discussion with all the different people attending on the round table. And something that I'll keep in mind is another way to pass the message and try to influence the leaders is using their peers. So sometimes within our organization we have some business unit managers or country managers that are a bit reluctant to change. Yeah. But if you use the good leaders, the ones that are really working on your side to pass the message instead of you, that's quite powerful because they all share the same position, they're all busy, they all have the same scope. They can influence each other a lot. So it's something that we discussed yesterday that I think could be very applicable to our organization, and that's something that we take as a
just push the Global Series Learning Summit message across the group. And if we can get people around that, from our other entities involved in a place close to them, then great.